Danze, everyone. I'm the captain, Ross Memphis Pamper. With me on the squeaky wheel is my friend, the co-host, the president, Lawrence Gervais. We're broadcasting from Calgary, Region 3 of the Métis Nation of Alberta homeland. We'd like to acknowledge these lands are also the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Siksika, the Kainai, Kani, Treaty 7, Tsuut'ina, and Stoney Nakoda, whom we share this land on the ongoing, continued friendship and relationship. We'd also like to say thank you to our First Nation friends, the Métis settlements, and to the Métis brothers and sisters, with whom we give our thanks to our elders for their guidance and to Mother Earth, she shares her bounty. Thank you, folks. Let's get the wheel spinning. Well, Lawrence, we had to bounce back to sometimes our old methods. All of a sudden, here we were getting together quite a number of times. And I know we will, maybe even as of next week. But, as things get pushed around, as the province gets pushed around, it sure does get a bit complicating to try and figure out what is the best, best use or best appropriate way for us to connect. But there's always a message that you and I are trying to share out there. And, I don't think it's necessary that, we're banging on each other's doors every day, but it sure is nice. It's a nice way for us to, have that opportunity to connect. But as long as we're still getting our message out there through this type of media and sharing this with the listeners who, are so generous to make sure that they keep subscribing and sending us our emails, Lawrence, this is one of those ways we're going to have to make it work.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to stay away from you and Jason, so this is why we're at home again. Neither one of us is sick, just so everybody's worried or concerned.
Yeah.
It's just...
But it becomes, there's this fallacy that just avoiding each other is what's going to help protect, everything. We still have the responsibility. When you can wear masks, folks. It just helps protect you and the other people when it comes to hand washing. So there's all those little things. But again, to me, the most important thing is that we get the message out. A lot of things on our little agenda to chat about today. I want to talk, Lawrence, about, the success of the election at the MNC, and we'll explain to, everybody who that is. I know we're going to make some comment about federal politics. Why the smoke is back, Turkey Day's coming up, how the Blue Jays ended up, some of the aspects of the curriculum and how we deal with that, and then supply chain. So let's jump into a few things, Lawrence. The MNC, let's talk about what happened there, because there's a new president. And how's that relationship regionally with the MNC and provincially, federally? How do those connect?
Well, I mean, that president's role is a secretariat. Nonetheless, they work with the presidents from each province are members of the Board of Governors. Now with Manitoba gone, we're not sure how that's going to really correlate to, to their seat. But certainly, we're very cognizant that she does represent the kind of the region's scope on a national level too. So I'm not sure.
This is Cassidy Caron.
Yeah, Cassidy Caron.
Yeah. For our listeners out there, I think she's 29.
Yeah.
Now she has a bit of a history when it comes to her connection within community. And she's from the Red River area.
Yeah.
I think her background is.
Well, her ancestry is a Red River Métis. I think that's what she puts, just like me and you. But she, I think, has experience as a youth rep in BC. And then I think she was doing her business, her consulting in Ontario.
Okay.
Yeah, so she does a lot of community development already. She does have a lot of experience with the Métis Nation already, so she understands the complexities there. But, certainly it's a new role for her, and such a young person. It's going to be, I'm not sure if it'll be a challenge or be rewarding. As long as she gets the support from all of us, I think she'll be okay.
Well, and that's actually probably the most important part of the message there. She's obviously going to have an impact with the youth. Now it's, how is she going to help us and then reconnect the elderly and the seniors into this conversation? And our
veterans and all these programs that we have currently with Canada. I know they're probably scrambling a little bit for information for at least the last 3 years, because we haven't had a meeting since since last week when we elected her in. But it's just certainly just probably deciphering through so much stuff right now. So
let's hope the Métis National
give her as much space as possible before we invite her into the podcast.
Yeah, well, we should do that. I'm hoping that the Métis National Council becomes a stronger presence, because if you look at what happened here September 30th with Truth and Reconciliation Day, and again, I think we'll jump into afterwards talking about curriculum, but once again, now we have Trudeau apologizing. Hey, he brought this out to apologize. He brought this forward. This became important, and yet didn't do anything that day. Flew to Tofino, guaranteed on company dime, and spent his day there and didn't connect at all. So if this was what you're bringing, and now he's just apologizing. Well, folks, you're right. I probably should have done more. Yeah, even done anything at all.
I'm sure the waves are kind of big this time of year, so it's good to catch those big waves.
I'm sure. Yeah, where's his picture when he's wearing his wetsuit? Sorry, I didn't even have time to send an email or send his own recorded meeting or thank you to the provinces, and thank you to the government, and thank you to our federal family, just to say thank you for celebrating this. It's nothing.
Well,
he didn't do anything.
I think what the big problems with it's Kamloops, right? So I don't think he's even been there. I think that's part of the issue. And when you're in the same province, or just a little flight away, that probably would have been the better visit.
And that's then we look at our curriculum, and I can't speak to all the other provinces, but I know you and I, let's talk a little bit about the idea of how do we share this with our youth in our school, anybody in school, the idea of truth and reconciliation and what that day meant. What are they teaching? Because if they're not getting it from our prime minister saying anything, what are they getting it from?
Well, I mean, this definitely was the worry, prior to, actually after the site was opened, I think there was 62% of us said that it should be taught in schools, the residential school. And now we're a bit of a worry because now we have teachers and principals and people who probably haven't been led through any ceremony or any level of understanding of what happened in the residential school, and they're the ones that are instructing the kids, because kids are probably asking them questions, I'm sure, and the teachers, I'm sure, are pretty eager to do it. But you can't just Google this stuff. It has to be connected to the certainly a working group or curriculum guidance from Indigenous folks, right?
Well, when you end up with the day off of school, and I know, right, you're throwing the ball around, or this time of the year you're starting to play street hockey. At some point, at any age, you ask an adult, hey, why do we have the day off again? Right? That's, and when you're asking the teacher, and that's usually your first point of contact when it comes to that kind of school, because, you haven't had a chance to ask your parent. But if they don't have an answer, so these are the things. Now, I respect the fact that we started and it was important. And, really the radio stations did a fabulous job that most of them had a note that said, listen, we don't have our people on today. This is your day to talk about, September 30th. Let's talk about Orange Shirt Day. Let's talk about truth and reconciliation. So I like to think that those conversations were happening. And I do know a lot of people asked me. So thank you to all of those friends and families who said, can you teach me or can I learn? And folks, as I say it all the time, I'm still learning along this journey.
Yeah, I mean, we all are. The truth is just coming out now. But the truth did verbally come out years ago when they had the TRC, but it just went on to deaf ears. Mm-hmm. And now they're uncovering so many layers and layers and layers. People, we do have a concern as an Indigenous community, like who's going to be teaching it. And that's predominantly it.
Well, and, when you don't have people there to be a part of the conversation, Hamilton recently, the mob mentality, those kids, if the school wasn't there to say, I'm sorry, you're not having an event. Well, they ended up having a bit of a street party. I think it said there was 5,000 people. These things build pretty fast as a result of social media. And the next thing you know, they're flipping cars of their own students. Like here they are seeing their own damage, sadly, in their own, in their own community. And when you get those kind of mob mentalities, and these are the same mob mentalities when it comes to the anger that people are expressing, when it comes to they need their opinion to be heard. Whether or not their opinion is scientifically proven and they have any argument behind them, For some reason, they just need to be heard. Of course, that being the groups that are standing in front of hospitals. Hospitals. These are there for you folks.
Yeah.
Not for,
In terms of hooliganism, like usually there's a cause. You know, those protesters outside the hospital have some like their viewpoints, and
yeah.
and that's they view that as their direct action. But when I look at just some of these universities and colleges, and it's just a very large party and gets out of control, well then really at the end of the day, who's responsible? The school or those student associations that put them on, or whatever it is. I mean, if they're doing stuff like that, peeing everywhere and throwing cars around and burning stuff, and then that's something else, right? It is criminal. And if the police aren't capable of stepping in, well then maybe that's another issue that we have to look at.
Yeah, we have to look at how do we create enforcement. And it's like these young people have no idea that there are cameras. Now, I'm glad there wasn't cameras the day that I ever did. But nowadays, it's just, this is the way things are. There are cameras everywhere. And the consequences for a lot of these people, when all of a sudden it's, yeah, that was you flipping that car. I've never flipped a car before.
Yeah.
Not when I'm not getting paid as a fire department, but that's purposeful. But in flipping it in damage and trying to cause mayhem, yeah, you're not doing this for the right reason. That's hooliganism.
Yeah, and certainly the university sometimes they turn a dark, like a, what do you mean? They look the other way because a lot of them are still attached to those fraternities, those sororities, those associations that were kind of responsible sometimes too. So there's almost an internal conflict going on at the university, I'm sure, because they have to somebody has to accept responsibility.
Somebody, and or look to put the responsibility on somebody.
That's right.
And, nowadays everybody uses every social media in order to create, hey, let's connect. Well, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Facebook and Instagram, essentially the Zuckerberg empire was down. And, we didn't really hear anybody complain. And you look at the media and you look at the editorials, nobody liked the idea that it was down, but everybody said, maybe this isn't a bad thing. What makes us think that ease of connection should be, as easy as it is? And or we're reliant. If this is the only way you're getting your media is through the Twitterverse, through the Facebook, then you're not doing enough reading. You're not looking into the whole story if you're just reading snippets.
Well, it's like that song, "Video Killed the Radio Star." Social media is killing newspapers and magazines and stuff like that. And it's just that ease of access, right?
Whoever attaches the brightest photoshopped photo saying you've got to read this. I get it. That was advertising in the past, but understanding the difference between advertising and information that is there, maybe that's something we need to start teaching everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think we just have to be more socially conscious and understand there's going to be a new generation coming up here, and what are they going to live with? I mean, when I grew up, it was hardly television. It was the 80s, but we played outside. That's how we got our entertainment. Kids nowadays, it's different, Video games to us in the old days was like just a little bit of a luxury. It didn't take up your whole weekends, right?
And it was a place that, in a way, you had to go to the arcade to socialize.
Yeah.
And it still cost you money. There was a cost to that. Whereas nowadays, there's no cost to, these kids. They have their phone. Somebody says, don't worry, I'll cover the rest of the data. What's the big deal? So they don't have to work. You had to work to collect enough quarters in order to be able to go to, or loonies in order to be able to go to the arcade. Now, you play and play and play as long as you own it, it seems. Now, maybe I'm wrong. And youth, send me the information, tsw@thesqueakywheel.ca. Email us there, and I'd love to read more about why I'm wrong when it comes to what the value of video games are. But I have family and I have, young nieces and nephews, and they're starting to say, yeah, at the end of the day, you just spent your whole day playing that video game. And if it helps you relax, I can understand that. But what else did you ever do in order to relax, educate yourself? Because it doesn't appear nobody's ever explained to me how they got educated playing that video game.
Yeah.
Or learned anything.
I think it's just, I think we just have more stimulants for the kids now. Video games, these high caffeine drinks, like, just all these things that can just hurt a child. Well, then the childs are actually doing it.
And I don't want to just end up being the complainer son. That's what happens when you become the old man.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes you become the fathers who just sit at the A&W and they can solve everything over a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that we recognize it.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's some 13, 14-year-olds that will go to one of your gigs and go, ooh, I hate this music. What is
Well,
this?
that's true.
Right.
And that's fine. I don't expect everybody to come and see our band, Memphis and the Grand, GRAND. Little shout out to myself. Thank you for bringing it up. I don't expect everybody to. Everybody has a different passion.
Yeah.
But understand that, you have to, if your whole identity is set up just playing those video games, you're not connecting. And it is harder. I have nephews who are going to school right now, and it is hard. They want to be in a space where they can connect. And I hope we're getting closer and closer to getting back to that. But it's a challenge.
Yeah, and it certainly is. It's a young people for sure. I mean, if you even look at our vaccination rates, it's, pretty much on their shoulders, right? Especially through their 20s. They have to go get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And now we got Turkey Day coming up. Thanksgiving's coming up here next weekend. And, again, I don't know how you regulate when the province and the premier says, if you're not vaccinated, don't get together with your family. Well, they're already making a statement by not getting vaccinated. I'm not too sure how we're going to change that, but maybe the reminder is to those of us who have been vaccinated, sadly, you got to ask the question to your family and friends. Hey, have you been vaccinated? No, well, I can't let you come by. And it's sad that onus falls on us. Why does the responsibility not fall on those individuals who are not willing to be part of the system? But, I want people to hopefully connect. We all want people to be going back to sharing, what is sort of our cultural identity of sharing that time. But, I don't know how long, Lawrence, will we end up that every week for the next 10 years, we're going to be making that same statement. I sure hope not.
Well, I mean, I just look at the alternative. It's either that or shutting down our businesses and shutting down our schools again and all that stuff. And we don't want to go there. I mean, we're the ones who went out consciously and got the vaccine for a reason, because we didn't want this to happen anymore. We didn't want this lockdown to happen. But we know restrictions are going to pretty much it'll be, to schools, to businesses that you need your vaccine. It'll go to taxis. When you hop into a taxi, they're going to ask you for your vaccine record. Yeah. It's just going to completely go everywhere, right? Yeah.
It's hard that falls onto the shoulders of these individuals, but it has to start to fall someplace. Like, unfortunately, you need to ask these questions at the restaurant, if you work at the restaurant, because you have to protect yourself as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is going to be. Shaming? Reach out to every mother out there and say, did your kid get vaccinated? Because if not, now it's time to shame them. I don't know what it's going to take, but the numbers in the hospital seem to show it's not the vaccinated that end up in there. It's the unvaccinated.
Yeah. And there is a small little percentage that, of the 2 vaccine doses. And it's usually because they have a serious underlying condition most of the time, right? And they get into those really poor situations. Because I know people who've got COVID with the 2 vaccines and they've got sick, but they don't get that lung thing that people talk about, right?
And then the long-term conditioning.
That's right.
That Oilers player who recently said they're not too sure. He didn't get vaccinated. Now he's had lung damage. Archibald, I think. Don't know if he'll be back in the NHL. Well, I guess, kid, that's the consequence. You rolled the dice. But again, I can't speak on behalf of every aspect of it. I'm not 100% familiar with every part of that. It's just, these are often the stories you hear.
Yeah, and you never know. There might have been underlying. It might have been a vapor. He might have been a smoker at one time.
Yep.
Who knows,
Yeah.
right? But because that depletes the lungs too,
Yeah.
right? And then when COVID happens, it just takes over, right?
Takes over and beats you up. You hear
Yeah.
that story quite often. Now, I guess one of the things we won't be watching will be Blue Jays in the postseason. What a great run up. But, it's easy to go, yeah, if you win the last 50 games, you are in the playoffs. But sometimes it takes 51 wins. And that's where the Blue Jays ended up. They just fell short of half a game would have moved them into a playoff, chance.
Yeah.
One of those games that they lost, and they had a great closing season, and they won most of the games that they needed to win. They just didn't win one of them, and that was enough.
Yeah, the Blue Jays are dead to me now. No, just kidding. Back to Chuck Wagons.
Yeah, don't let that affect you giving me a free ticket to a game, next year's game, just because of what Lauren said. It was hard. It was hard to see that last game. We won the game, and watching Yankees win, Red Sox win, and out.
Yeah. I mean, and Red Sox, of course, they're moving through. The Yankees are gone, thank gosh. But I was raised a catcher, so I kind of know a little bit about the game, and I always refer to them. And just that Yankee catcher just couldn't squeeze his glove, and it just always irritated me. You'd always have these pass balls, and they'd end up winning because of the home runs. But it is what it is. I'm not a huge fan of Molina, and I'm really happy they lost yesterday to the Dodgers. But
they seem to rely on him a fair bit, and he didn't throw anybody out.
No, well, he's getting a little older now, right?
Yeah,
but
phenomenal walk off.
Yeah,
in that game. And sorry, folks, if you taped that game and we just ruined it for you, but yeah, the walk off in the bottom of the ninth, 2 out, 1 out, and he was swinging hard. I think it was a 1-2 pitch, and he connected with that Cody Snyder, maybe. I think.
Yeah, but it's funny because him and Bellinger have the same swing, like a really compact, like over torqued swing. Like I don't know how they do it. It's super flexible.
Oh, and that bat swings around. Yeah, it comes all the way aroround to their back. Yeah,
that's
and
right.
He was deep into that swing.
And they keep both hands on it all the way behind them. I'm like, geez, in my old age, if I tried that, that'd be it.
Lifting the microphone up can often cause one of us an injury.
Yeah.
So I know we were talking about the curriculum, and the provincial mandate, is coming forward where I think it's for the most part by November 1st. If you're not vaccinated, you will be stopped work in public. If you work in the public domain, I think the same thing's going to probably happen to a fair number of the municipal agencies, that if you are not vaccinated, and, I'm not too sure what leg people have to stand on. I understand that people don't want to be told what to do. And yet, boy, I'd like to see that they tell us more what's in hot dogs, because people seem to eat those and never really ask. But
well, I think they've had a lot of warning. I think the federal mandate was coming for quite a while. And that's why those HR people were probably writing everybody's information down and went, oh my God, we got a problem here, right?
Yes.
And I think that's why they're making a very hard, definitive decision November 1st. Yes. RCMP, you're a federal employee, anything. That's it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And, I would imagine that the MNA and likely most of the other Métis groups will probably follow that.
Yeah.
I guess we have to figure out, what are the allowances? How do we just tell people, well, work from home from now on? Or I guess we'll see a lot of that. The expense falls on the individual. You want to prove within the last 72 hours you weren't exposed, or that you can prove that you don't have COVID. Those tests are about $175.
Yeah.
So if you're planning to do that twice a week in order to get through your week, I don't know if showing up for work makes a whole lot of sense. You'd make more money not going to work, not paying for the tests, and living at home. I guess a lot of those parents out there whose 30 and 40-year-olds are deciding that they don't want to get vaccinated. Hey, folks, they're going to be moving home with you pretty soon, because they won't be able to afford anything else.
But I've said it time and time again since the beginning of COVID. Everybody has to go all the way back to episode 1, I'm sure. And I said, we have to get 3 areas done to complete the pandemic. So that's your vaccine, your testing, and your treatment, right? And we already see a pill already they're trying to approve down in the States. And it was on the New York Times. And it talked about a pill that you just take and it puts you down about 50% of a serious consequence of COVID. That's if you get sick.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, if all of a sudden you're relying on that, what about relying on the science that we've proven of vaccination? So I guess we're going to have to see how people react to it. But I guess in this situation, maybe people have the luxury of just blaming themselves. Well, I can blame myself for this happening. Who do we blame? Right now, we're smoky again in this province.
Yeah.
And that's coming up I think, from the United States. Can we blame them? We say we need to put up a higher border wall to keep your smoke out. Everybody's always looking for somebody else to blame.
Yeah.
In this situation, boy, I figured when we'd gotten through this far into this beautiful October that we've been having, those leaves are coming down awful fast, but that we would have less smoke. And yet here you walk outside and you could taste it again.
Well, the snowflakes are going to happen pretty quick here, right? So,
will they help pick up most of the smoke and get it out of the air? Because yeah,
it'll be like an ash. It'll just be gray snow coming down.
It'll be picked up everywhere. And the other thing too, why is everybody so opposed to daylight savings? I don't understand why there's such. Is it because again people just don't like being told that there's going to be change? Is this just a hatred of the government for making any decision? But I sure do like seeing more daylight. I get it. Somebody goes, well, it's because then the stores get more daylight. Yeah, we all get more daylight. I'm unsure as to how this is that big. It's not like we're jet lag flipping our time by 8 hours. We're changing by an hour.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you know what? I have an alarm clock that simulates the sun, and it certainly comes on and it slowly expands for 30 minutes.
I have the same one, Lawrence.
Yeah, it doesn't give me any beeps or anything, but I wake up and go, wow, it's nice and bright and sunny in here.
Yeah.
Right?
And yet you're not blaming the government for that.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. For who made me get myself to buy this? So maybe that's the anger. I'm not too sure. Maybe that's where a lot of this anger extends.
Yeah. I think you just have a lot of anger. That's all.
Yeah. Maybe these people have a lot of anger. And then the supply chain. We'll probably end on that, Lawrence, because this is the one that maybe we can finish our discourse regarding the fact that pretty much at a lot of the stores, you have to reach over Christmas stuff to buy Halloween stuff. And again, are we going to be reaching over to buy next summer's Easter and next Valentine's Day to still get to the Halloween stuff? But the supply chain, the term right now is container-geddon. I guess Walmart is trying to buy their own shipping boats because of the fact that they're having such problem moving around shipping containers when it comes to the supply chain. I don't want people to rush out and just start buying everything, but the idea that we're trying to move product around the world, again, maybe this reinforces perhaps we could buy local. We should build local. Right? We shouldn't have to rely on every one of these other agencies to supply us with everything.
Well, maybe that's a question that we can ask Adrian Pruden, who works in freighting. He knows what supply chain looks like, or he understands it. But that's an area that if Walmart is interested in buying their own ships, they definitely have a lot of money to do that, more than me or you. It just means our employees will still stay at minimum wage.
Yeah. My suggestion is that we start moving things around by the old Red River cart. So folks, if all of a sudden you see the Red River cart supply chain mobile movement of equipment and gear to your neighborhood, Lawrence and I want part of that. So
well, you won't even see them. You'll hear them though.
That's right.
They'll be louder than the freight train going by.
Maybe
right?
that's it right there. Right.
Yeah.
Most of the time people are looking out their door to try and figure out Pure Later, FedEx, anywhere near there. if we started shipping with Red River carts, you would know your product is coming.
Yeah,
From
everyone would be
about
like,
a
is
mile
that a bunch
away."
of cats moving in here, or what is that?
Yeah, start getting everything delivered. So, Lawrence, I think we've taken up enough of these, our fabulous listeners' time. Folks, thank you. Make sure you follow us, thesqueakywheel.ca. That's www. Make sure you email us, tsw@thesqueakywheel.ca. I know we've updated a little bit more of our information so that you're able to get in touch with us. Thank you for following us on YouTube. Make sure you get your friends and family to click that little red subscribe button. We always like seeing that when it shows up. This is an important message. This is one of those areas, folks, where we finally get to share conversation from a Métis perspective. And again, these are our opinions. We think Lawrence and I end up talking to a lot of people, and we're trying to share that conversation. Thank you for your time. Lawrence, close us out.
Well, thank you, everybody, and we look forward to the next little round here. We probably want to get a musician, I think, at some point again, and looking at another guest in order to do that. It might be in person, who knows? But yeah, it would be very nice to do that.
Yeah, next week I'd like to see us back in the office. Let's try and make that happen. Let's try and get somebody in there so that we can let that music ring. Because, folks, Riel said it. The 100 years will sleep, but it will be the artists who bring us back out. And right now, you and I are the artists that are bringing it back out, Lawrence. So thank you again for our conversation. Thank you for connecting the Métis community in this region. And, thank you for your time. And folks, make sure you listen to that land acknowledgement. It means a lot to us.